How did it go?
It was amazing. Well, we were really surprised because it was an entire young crowd. I mean, most of the crowd was just all young people, which is the best. You know,
that's your target audience.
That's our audience. I mean, we made the movie for everybody. The movie speaks to a lot of different ages and takes on a lot of different subjects that kind of speak to everybody. And adults really connect up with it, but it's the young people that really, I mean, it's their language, and it's our language. It's, the fast-moving pace of it all, and the animation and the music. I mean, it's really directed towards, people our age, and younger than me. I mean, way younger. So.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
And you got involved in the filmmaking process. Explain how that worked, and how the director, who is an older person, experienced.
He's an elderly man.
Yes, exactly. and how the two of you collaborated?
He's youthfully challenged.
I mean, you had to use your, what kind of camera were you using, and how did it work?
I mean, we used, the camera that's sitting right here, was this a GL2 or something? We used this. We used a bunch of other digital cameras. We used things like this, like a flip video kind of thing. I mean, we did just range over everything. We have over 15 terabytes of media, edited for about... I edited the film with Jordan, who's David's son, the director, and the editing process took about 3 years, and was a really difficult film to pull together, but on a technical level and just kind of how we did it, it was quite groundbreaking what David's vision of it all was, which was basically to write on the timeline, to have the story and have the script, and that's how we attracted the names in the movie and raised the money. But I mean, we were constantly raising money throughout the entire process, but David really wanted to write it on the timeline and get a very youthful voice to it, and
now, were you an experienced filmmaker yourself?
I mean, I'm a filmmaker at heart. I'd been doing my short-form documentaries and just videos, in
so
school.
That's sort of how you got the part, in a funny way, too.
Yeah. Well, David and Jordan had conceived this concept of this kid who was making a movie about his own suicide, and they were looking for an actor who could also hold a camera on himself. And the documentary that David saw that he really liked, and Jordan, too, was my documentary about my time on the road with Wavy Gravy, who hosted all the Woodstock festivals, Baba Ram Das, and Patch Adams, who they made the movie about. So I had this cool documentary that I made, and David saw it, and I think I brought more of this kind of lightness to the character. It's more of a, in his original concept, it was more of just this dark, kind of like Donnie Darko-like character, and then I came in, and I think it was lightened up a bit, but we still wanted to carry the message, the whole time of what would happen to a kid who was just overwhelmed by media, locked alone, doesn't really get along with his parents, and just sits inside and is just this kind of narcissistic blob, and what happens when he, takes his technology.
How would you describe the genre? Because it's not a mockumentary and it's not a documentary. It is a fiction film that's pretending to be real, sort of like Blair Witch in a way. How would you address that?
Yeah, we wanted to cross-pollinate, I guess, with all the different genres. David's, again, David has this very light side to him, but he also has this, we knew it was going to take on a dark feeling. I mean, the subject of suicide is, very dark, but we also wanted to look at it like Archie's not necessarily, he acts out in ways that, that a lot of people wouldn't, and how do I want to say that?
Well, in a funny way, he becomes popular as he pursues this dark intent.
Yeah, I mean, we knew we didn't want to
falls in love.
We knew we didn't want to make a movie that was just a movie where you'd come and watch a kid die, in front of you. We didn't want to have a total downer. And, I mean, some of the darkest sides of life also have their light sides, too, and are very funny in a lot of ways. And I think we really wanted to take on this dark subject with a fresh, kind of way of looking at it. But I don't know. I mean, in the end of the day, the movie starts off with Archie kind of getting popular in his crowd, and the whole first half of the movie is really Archie just being crazy by himself, and a lot of animation and all of this music kind of comes out of Archie's mind and kind of creates this odd ADD kind of aesthetic through the whole beginning of the movie, which is just throws some people off. Some people can't quite take it. They don't know where to stand. They just But then what happens throughout the film is it kind of levels out, and as he meets this girl in the movie, they start to kind of talk back and forth, and the movie kind of levels out. But it always has this kind of crazy ADD feeling to it. And I don't know what genre that is. I mean, it's funny at times. It gets very, sad at some other times because we're dealing with this heavy subject. And I don't know.
The movie has this strange relation to authenticity.
Yeah.
It is authentic because it's you in many ways, and you are a youthful person, and you did help to create what this is, and yet in another way, it's a fictional recreation of something that never happened.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to take on that documentary feeling to it, and a lot of the kids involved in the movie were documentary kids. Some of them that ended up working on the film later started out as documentary just interviews and then became more involved in the process. And again, we shot over a period of 4 years, and we had people coming in and talking about their suicides or people they had been connected to that were suicidal. We worked with a lot of suicide prevention groups. We worked with Teen Line out of Cedars-Sinai and some suicide prevention experts, and worked with them, and we're connected to all these people. And we wanted to really bring this authentic thing to where you're sitting there and you're going, well, I know this is a character, I know this is a story, but right now it just feels so, raw and like it's really happening. And that was definitely a goal from the very beginning. And kind of like, Borat almost did it. Sometimes we would go and put ourselves in real situations and just see what would happen. And it was amazing, but it was also...
Is there an example of that?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple sections in the movie where you see me and the girl and I walking around and just putting cameras in people's faces and talking to them about the issue.
But the kids in the school are all actors, and yeah.
Some of them, yeah. We did other shoots in the school where we would have kids just talking about stuff, and then in an impromptu type of way, we would just kind of spark a scene right there. And sometimes those kids would be involved and want to come back and do more talking, or sometimes we gave them the cameras. And we said, go and find, something that really interests you and fascinates you. And they would take the camera and go film things. And a lot of ideas sprung out of this type of, this kind of what would Archie do mentality of, if Archie was doing this, he'd hand cameras to somebody and they'd go talk. And what came out of that was amazing creatively, but also really terrifying. We met... over the period of 4 years while doing this film, I've had many interactions with many people who have been extremely close to suicide or were suicidal themselves. Or it's a serious subject. When we started this film, there was an article came out. I can't remember exactly where it was from, but it said the biggest growing rate of suicide, the age range that's killing themselves more today than anybody else, is ages 10 to 14.